What is going on, everybody? My name is Jacob. Today is not a razor day. As you can see here, we're going to be making a chef knife, and I'm trying to focus on making a sushi knife, or I think what would it be called, like a sashimi? I don't know. It's a thinner knife designed to cut fish. So these are different than what I'm used to. I actually really wanted one because the current knife that I have, that I made, it works really well, but it's not very precise. So I wanted to make a more precise one. So during this video, it's going to be pretty standard. There's always the same steps. You start with a piece of paper. You get your calipers out. You measure that piece of paper that you've drawn on. I use grid paper. It's really helpful. Blah, blah, blah. Not everybody does. But yeah, so now I just mark it on the piece of steel. This is a piece of 1080 steel. It's 1/8 inch thick. Pretty standard stuff. You can get it pretty much anywhere. Where do we get ours? What is it?
On the internet.
On the internet. Thanks. That's very helpful.
We get ours from an actual steel mill in Mexico.
Okay, we get ours from a steel mill in Mexico, but I think Steel Baron, New Jersey Steel Baron's good.
Steel Baron, Pop's Knife Supply.
Pop's Knife Supply.
Alpha Knife.
Alpha Knife. All that, pretty much anywhere that sells metal, I would say would sell 1080 because it's a really good steel for a lot more than just knife making. But it holds a really good edge, and it's really, I don't know, it's kind of hard to mess it up as far as the heat treat goes. But this is going to be part one of the video, in case you're curious, because I had to cut this down from 50 minutes to 11, so I didn't really want to make you guys sit here for 50 minutes and then expect another 50-minute video. So basically, still working on the shape. That's a lot of time. All right. I edited that part out. There's quite a bit more. So that's after cutting it. You just put it in water, keep it cool. As long as you normalize your steel before you quench it and heat treat it, it doesn't really matter if it gets overheated. It's just more of a comfort thing. I don't wear gloves because gloves are kind of a pain in the butt. And so just keep your steel cool. Drill your holes before. I cannot stress that enough. Drill your holes before you do any beveling of any kind ever. Okay, like that's the number one thing I have to offer. Most important knowledge. This whole section here is just putting the bevel on. You can see I do it freehand. If you have a Warncliffe knife where the blade itself doesn't curve at all, you can use a jig. That's no problem. I mean, you could use a jig this way, but you'd still have to come through and freehand it afterward. But I find it a lot easier to do freehand. I also have a lot of practice, so it's kind of to each their own here. But for me, this works really well. It's a really, really shallow bevel, I guess. Really shallow bevel. Yeah, I mean, it's a chef's knife. Chef knives have really shallow bevels. They're not meant to be chopping on things or hitting wood or anything like that, so that their edge doesn't need a whole lot of angle to it. So I'll speed this through, and I'll get to you on the next step.
Like a bird on a tree, I'm just sitting here. I got time, it's clear to see. From up here, the world seems small. We can sit together. It's so beautiful, you and me. We meant to be in the great outdoors, forever free.
All right, so that was actually a lot of time sped up. I think I had that sped up 10 times, so, do some math if you really want to care. But so here I'm using a file just to get really, really precise 90-degree edges. These are really important when you're trying to do bolsters or just general fitment. So, and then after that, I'm going to take the file and just kind of go over the whole thing to make sure everything is at a level plane. Yeah, you can do that on the grinder, but it's just better to come through and check your work. Always check your work. I don't care how good you are, you gotta check your work. So the file's a really good way to do that. You could use a stone or a piece of sandpaper attached to like a really flat piece of metal. I've seen a lot of people do that. It works really well. But this will show you high spots, low spots, stuff like that. The steel is still soft, I haven't hardened it, so it's really easy to do this. And yeah, just a quick one. You have to pardon the camera work. I don't have a tripod or anything like that. I'm actually using an old cell phone to do all my videoing, so yeah, it's interesting. Maybe one day I will step my game up there, but as for right now, I'm trying to do my best. So I picked this handle material. It's not traditional, I know. If that triggers you, I'm sorry. Welcome to Jacob Rake Razors. I like to do things the way I like to do things. This is a polyacrylester lava, I believe it's called. The reason I chose an acrylic, or not acrylic, polyester instead of a wood, which would, pun intended, would have been traditional, is because with chef's knives, they get really wet often. And I don't understand why you would want something that collects water. Because in 100 years, you're going to have this tang that's just so rusted out that you have to just start over. So I typically tend to try and go for longevity when it comes to building anything, and knives especially. This way, you know, you have this piece of plastic that does not absorb any moisture under any circumstances, whether you're washing it or whatever. It doesn't really matter. This is, in my opinion, the better alternative, and I feel like those who made it 1,000 years ago, had they had this, would have used it. Not just because it's beautiful, but because of that. So, yeah. This is actually going to be a cage style hidden tang. It's not going to be your standard hidden tang. I think it's prettier, to be honest with you. And also, it's pretty easy. So, you can see I'm just marking it right there. I just use a regular pen. Actually, I have this really awesome pen. It's not even a Sharpie. It's just like one of those cool ballpoints. I don't know the brand of it, but definitely works better than anything I've found. It doesn't clog up like Sharpies. So anyways, once you get that marked out, you gotta make sure everything's smooth and flat. That way when you put it back together, you know, you don't have gaps. You don't need a surface grinder to do this. You just need some practice. This basically is a surface grinder, just using your hands. See? Sped up again. I'm using a 1/8 inch drill bit as a testing pin because the hole is 1/8 inch, so obviously it's gonna fit. So yeah, eventually the pin will be able to come out. That's something I find that's super important when it comes to chef knives. You want to be able to disassemble the entirety of the blade so you can clean, oil, and then put it all back together multiple times, just in case, you know, it does get totally submerged in water, which of course it would. It's a chef knife. But here we go, working on the cage part. So what I did is I picked another piece of acrylic. Same reasons as before. I picked black though because I thought it'd look really cool. And what I'm going to do is make the cage that separates the two. I'm going to call them scales. I'm sure that's not the correct word, but that separates the scales. And this is going to basically like hold the blade in. So it kind of has to be perfect. You see me test fit. No, that doesn't work. Okay, perfect. Now we're going to test fit it again. Well, blah, 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 blah. Just using the bandsaw, quick and dirty way to do it. So it didn't quite fit. I know what I need to do. Fix that. Bam. Wham, bam. Thank you, ma'am. Try it again. Nope, didn't work. Try it again. See? It's just magic. The magic of continuously testing your work. If it doesn't fit, just make it fit. And if you go too far, start over. No big deal. So it's time to cut out the cage. Pretty simple stuff. This is really easy material to work with. I really like it. Great camera work here. Pro cameraman. So I'm kind of just showing you how it all fits together. And yeah, one pin holding it together will suffice. Although there is a possibility that I might add a second one. We'll see. I'm not really sure yet. That's going to be for part 2. So anyways, the cage slides right up in, fits perfectly, blah, blah, blah. Great, awesome, nice and sturdy. So I'm going to make everything smooth. Make sure that there's no random pieces sticking out. It's pretty basic. The shape is not what I want, so this is when we're going to start shaping your handle. I haven't glued anything yet or anything along those lines, which is why you see the clamp on there. Gluing will come later once I'm 100% confident in the design, because there's still a couple of pieces that I have to add, and you'll see that later in the video. Pickiness. I'm a picky little guy here. All right, so I wanted to get that 45-degree angle in there, kind of like that. To me is the thing that makes a Japanese style knife stand out from a European style knife. So yeah, eventually I'll cut it off and add a piece in there. I guess a bolster, but it's not really a bolster. It's just an extra piece. Doesn't protect you from anything. Okay. What are you doing, Past J? Also, you'll notice I am using that belt to its end of its life, so getting the most out of it. Okay, so now we have that gap between the top of the knife and the bottom, and I need to make a little tiny piece to fit in there. It also looks good and kind of adds some rigidity to the knife, so I just liked it. I don't know. A lot of the times when I do stuff, it's not like a traditional thing. It's just something that I liked. So you can see it kind of looks like a katana, but I'm actually going to get rid of it. And it's all gone. See, it just ground it off real quick. And it has this nice look. Once it's polished up, you'll see like the black from the cage and then extended right up there. So that's going to be the end of part 1. If you have questions, I know this was very quick. Yeah, so let me know in the comments below. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next time when I'm actually heat treating, sharpening, getting this bad boy ready to go. All right, bye. Okay, I think I have it. All right, so fresh out of the workshop, we have 3 parts. One is the blade, which has not been heat treated. I hope they get a nice Hammond on it, because Hammonds are beautiful. And 1080 takes a really nice Hammond, so I'll use a satinite clay along there. Pretty simple. It takes some practice, but probably 2 or 3 times you'll get the hang of it. You can put Hammond on anything as long as you have the satinite. Blade, hole, bam. Then we have our I think it's called polyacrylester. I don't want to get that wrong, but I'm about 100% sure I'm going to get it wrong. But this handle will polish up like these things look like they're underwater when they're polished. This is one of the most polishable materials. It's gorgeous. So anyways, goes in like so. So we get a nice flush fit on the back. You can see it's not glued yet. So, oh well, pops out. I'll fix that in the future. Not a big deal. And part number 3, which will become part of the handle, just slides on like so. So there we go. So that's pretty much the fastest possible way I could show you guys how to do it. Just remember, it's simple. 2D shape first, then you put the bevel, well, 2D shape first, and that includes the drilling of the hole. Do not try and drill blades that are hard. Don't try and find metal that's hard and drill it. Just, it's not worth your time or your hands. I promise. Right here, that is the scar. Anyways, and then you go to your 3-dimensional shape. Don't go too thin, otherwise when you quench it, you'll end up warping it and starting from scratch, which, well, that's not fun. And yeah, so far that's it. Hope to see you guys in video 2, part 2. Part 2 will be finishing it. It's not going to be a 3-parter. It's just going to be done. And yeah, let me know what you guys think about this. Don't forget, we're on Instagram, Facebook, and share the video, I guess. Do the things that YouTube people tell you to do. All right, guys. Thanks. See you later.